What would happen if an asteroid crashed into Earth at a speed of 20 kilometers per second? What would be the outcome? This isn't a scene from a sci-fi movie, but a real event that occurred 66 million years ago. A fragment of an asteroid, 10 kilometers in diameter, crashed straight into Earth. The impact site was the Yucatan Peninsula, now known as the Gulf of Mexico. And this was exactly the cause of the last known mass extinction event, the final great extinction we know of, the dinosaur dynasty, which had ruled the Earth for 160 million years, was completely wiped out. So the question is, 10 kilometers sounds huge, but compared to the entire Earth, it's tiny. So how did it manage to wipe out all the dinosaurs? And the ancestors of mammals? How did we survive this disaster? Let's find out together. I'll divide this doomsday event into 3 stages. First, let's start with stage 1. When the asteroid, 10 kilometers in diameter, entered Earth's atmosphere, its speed accelerated to nearly 100,000 kilometers per hour. The energy released at the moment of impact was equivalent to a billion nuclear bombs detonating. The impact crater formed at that moment is still clearly visible today. It's the Chicxulub crater. This massive crater is 150 kilometers wide and 20 kilometers deep. Its formation time has been dated to 66 million years ago. At the moment of impact, all life within a 1,000 kilometers radius was vaporized. The Earth's crust around the site was deformed by the collision. Then, shockwaves from the earthquake began spreading across the globe. The apocalypse was beginning. Minutes after the impact, massive earthquakes erupted worldwide. At that time, volcanic activity was already quite frequent. So this was like opening Pandora's box. And for the gigantic dinosaurs, all of this must have felt like utter despair. Because of their heavy bodies, all they could do was struggle helplessly. The impact and earthquakes also triggered a series of tsunamis. These massive waves would sweep through the oceans and inland lakes in the following hours. A massive flood swept across North America, drowning a huge number of creatures, and the rapidly rising waters formed an unstoppable natural disaster. Nothing could stop it. In such large-scale desperation, even the Alamosaurus, over 30 meters long, were as fragile as roadside trees. Less than an hour after impact, molten debris shot into space was pulled back down by gravity. As this material re-entered the atmosphere, it became blazing hot and red. Boom! Simply put, a rain of fire began to pour down. The atmosphere burned like a fiery purgatory. Harvesting lives non-stop. Creatures still standing on the ground were like being grilled on a scorching pan. Like those poor Edmontosaurus, they were roasted alive. And all of this was just the beginning. Rocks rained down like a storm, continuously slamming into the dinosaurs' bodies. Some Edmontosaurus cared deeply for their families, but sadly, their efforts were all in vain. The rain of fire only grew worse. The dinosaurs who once roamed the land thanks to their massive size now became nothing more than living targets. 2 hours after the impact, a choking storm of dust and fire began to engulf the land. Nearly half the Earth's surface was affected, and vast forests began to burn. Particles from the wildfires accelerated the catastrophe. It became a living hell, spreading endlessly. No animal could escape it, not even the Triceratops, hiding in the valleys. Their massive size meant there was nothing they could do to escape. And the pterosaurs too. Even those in the skies couldn't escape. The fire rain tore through their delicate wing membranes. Countless pterosaurs died in agony. But the animals that were once crushed under the dinosaurs' feet were now able to hide underground or in caves. The disaster continued on until the entire planet was blanketed in dust, and the mighty dinosaur empire began. At this very moment, its countdown to extinction. Now we enter phase 2. After the initial devastation caused by the impact, creatures still had no chance to breathe. Earth now faced another wave. A second chain reaction. Countless volcanoes began to erupt without restraint. And as massive volcanic matter entered the atmosphere, along with the previous dust, they began to block out sunlight. Earth entered a brief era of darkness. Compared to land, the oceans weren't much better off. Sulfurous dust fell from the skies, eventually turning into acid rain. Countless ancient coral species completely collapsed. The habitats these creatures relied on to survive turned into graveyards of marine life. Mosasaurus and other large marine reptiles were wiped out. They went extinct. Luckily, the deep sea offered a glimmer of hope for survival to scavenger species, like arthropods and ancient fish. They all depended on the stable conditions of the deep ocean to survive this catastrophic event. They even thrived more than before, thanks to an endless food supply during this period. While these animals enjoyed a doomsday feast, the end times, the chain reaction caused by the asteroid impact, was still ongoing. Countless forests were destroyed, and the sky choked with dust. Most of the sunlight was blocked. Then, the global temperature began to drop. The surviving animals now had to face a prolonged freezing climate around the world. This phenomenon is called the impact winter. It caused Earth's temperature to plummet. Plants could no longer photosynthesize, and the entire food chain was severely disrupted. Earth entered a prolonged deep freeze, harsh, dark, and without sunlight. For creatures that depended on sunlight and warm environments, especially dinosaurs, this sudden change was almost fatal. Millions of species were completely wiped out within days or weeks. In comparison, mammals were relatively smaller. They didn't need the massive food supply that dinosaurs did. More importantly, mammals' metabolic systems helped them adapt to the cold environment. Many mammals coped with low temperatures by regulating their body heat. Some species could even hibernate. Moreover, mammals had relatively larger brains, giving them better problem-solving skills. They could seek shelter after disasters and reduce exposure to the outside world to avoid more danger. After being suppressed by dinosaurs for so long, they often had to forage at night. So mammals at that time were already better adapted to dark environments. In contrast, with their massive size and slow reflexes, dinosaurs lacked flexibility to cope with sudden environmental changes, like mammals could. Ultimately, under a series of chain reactions and the collapse of the food chain, the age of the dinosaurs came to an end. This was also the last known mass extinction event, the final one known to us. It caused the total extinction of about 75% to 80% of all life on Earth. This event is known as the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction, also called the KPG extinction. The asteroid impact wasn't just a sudden catastrophe. It triggered a chain reaction that lasted millions of years, and after countless natural disasters passed, we entered Phase 3. For many years after the impact, Earth remained a dead world. The once vibrant world teeming with life now seemed to have returned to chaos. But eventually, sunlight returned, and life wasn't completely extinguished. Insects, with their incredible adaptability, rose again when few animals remained on land. Their ancestors had once ruled the Earth. As a result, they were among the first to reappear. And beyond the insects, some reptiles also managed to survive. The survivors shared one common trait: relatively small body sizes and strong adaptability. Of course, this included the ancestors of modern mammals, us. They inherited a world without dinosaurs. Looking back at history, mammals didn't appear much later than dinosaurs. Not by much at all. However, they were suppressed at the bottom of the food chain for hundreds of millions of years. It's fair to say that if dinosaurs hadn't gone extinct, mammals would never have had the chance to rise. So, did dinosaurs truly go extinct? In fact, one special branch of their lineage survived successfully, even to this very day. They still rule the vast skies. That's right, birds. The kingdom of birds evolved from certain species of dinosaurs. So the blood of dinosaurs still flows in their veins. But the age of dinosaurs is truly over. Because next, the empire of mammals was about to rise in full force.